3 points secured at Celtic Park, and even without fireworks, it was one of those afternoons that quietly matter when a season starts tightening up. A 2-0 win at home, clean sheet intact, and another reminder that this team knows how to get the job done, even when the performance is not sparkling. From the opening whistle, there was a sense that Celtic did not need to rush, did not need chaos, and instead trusted that moments of quality would arrive sooner or later. The match itself unfolded in a fairly controlled rhythm, though it would be wrong to say it was completely one-sided. There were spells, especially in the first half, when the visitors enjoyed a decent share of the ball and even looked comfortable moving it around midfield. For around 10 to 15 minutes, Celtic were forced to be patient, tracking runners, holding their shape, and waiting for gaps to open. It was not dominant football, but it was mature football, and sometimes that distinction is crucial at this stage of the campaign. After the break, there was another brief period where Celtic were not fully in control, and you could feel a bit of unease in the stands. The visitors came out with intent, pressed higher, and for a moment looked like the side more likely to score. Then, almost out of nothing, the breakthrough arrived. A sharp combination in midfield, intelligent movement off the ball, and a finish that reminded everyone why certain players are trusted in big moments. One chance, one touch of real quality, and suddenly the game tilted firmly back in Celtic's favour. The opening goal itself summed up much of what Celtic tried to do when things click. Good work in the build-up, composure rather than panic, and a delivery into the box that demanded a decisive response. The header was outstanding, not just for its power, but for its placement, guiding the ball beyond the goalkeeper and off the post on its way in. It was the kind of finish that speaks of confidence and timing, and it gave the stadium the lift it had been waiting for, even if the celebration felt more restrained than usual. That slightly flat reaction said a lot about the overall atmosphere. Celtic Park, for all its history and noise, can sometimes feel subdued on certain afternoons, and this was one of them. Even after taking the lead, there was not that usual surge of energy, that sense of the stands dragging the team forward. Kick-off times, recent tensions, and a general feeling of frustration around the club all seemed to blend into a strange backdrop, one where the footballers had to generate their own momentum. Once the second goal arrived, however, any lingering doubt disappeared. It was a beautifully worked move down the left side, a flowing exchange of passes that pulled the defense apart. The timing of the run, the weight of the final ball, and the calmness of the finish all came together perfectly. It was one of those goals that looks effortless when done right, even though it requires complete understanding between the players involved. That moment of sharpness made the difference on the day. Individually, there were several performances worth noting. Callum McGregor once again showed why games like this suit him so well. When the match is about control, positioning, and smart decision-making, rather than constant physical battles, he thrives. His influence grew as the game went on, and his role in linking play and setting the tempo was clear, especially in the second half, when Celtic needed to reassert themselves. There were also encouraging signs from players still finding their rhythm. At times, some struggled early on, particularly when the opposition pressed aggressively, but credit where it is due, they recovered and grew into the contest. The quality of delivery from wide areas improved as the match progressed, and that was key in stretching the defense and creating space centrally. The striker led the line well, often working outside the box, holding the ball up and bringing others into play, even if that meant his best work came far from the penalty area. That said, there is still a sense that more could be squeezed out of the wide players. With a strong focal point in attack, there were moments crying out for earlier cutbacks and more direct runs to the byline. On another day with sharper service, the scoreline might have been more comfortable. Still, efficiency counts, and taking chances when they come is what ultimately matters. From a broader perspective, the result keeps Celtic firmly in the hunt. The points gap remains manageable, and with other results falling kindly elsewhere, the table continues to tighten. This is the stage of the season where momentum can swing quickly, where drop points become magnified, and where grinding out wins, even without brilliance, can define the run-in. Taking it one match at a time sounds simple, but it is often the only realistic approach. Attention now inevitably drifts beyond the pitch. With the transfer deadline looming, speculation is everywhere, and there is a sense that movement behind the scenes could shape the weeks ahead. There have already been hints that medicals have taken place and that both arrivals and departures are possible. That uncertainty adds another layer to performances like this, where players are not only fighting for points, but also for their place in what the squad will look like moving forward. Despite the off-field noise, the players delivered what was required on the day. They did not overcomplicate things. They did not chase unnecessary risks, and they showed enough composure to see the game out comfortably. The opposition had moments. They passed the ball well at times, but they rarely tested the goalkeeper in any meaningful way, and that defensive solidity deserves recognition. In the end, it was one of those afternoons that might not live long in the memory for the football itself, but could prove important when the season reaches its final stretch. There were flashes of real quality, signs of improving chemistry in attack, and a reminder that even when Celtic are not at their fluent best, they still have enough to take care of business at home, keep pressure on those around them, and set the tone for what comes next as the campaign continues to unfold. As the game settled, after that second goal, the sense as around the stadium was less about celebration and more about quiet assessment. People were watching closely, judging performances, weighing up who is stepping forward at the right time and who still looks like they are searching for consistency. This stage of the season has that effect. Every touch, every decision feels like it carries extra meaning, especially with change potentially around the corner. One of the more interesting discussions to come out of the match centered on the balance of the midfield. There is no denying the impact of goals from deeper areas, and having a midfielder who can arrive late and finish with composure is a massive asset. At the same time, it does change the dynamic of how Celtic control games. There are moments when energy, pressing, and physical presence are sacrificed in favor of that goal threat, and that trade-off is something the coaching staff clearly continue to weigh up depending on the opponent. Against this particular opposition, it worked well enough. Celtic were able to recycle possession, slow the game down when needed, and then accelerate quickly when spaces appeared. The passing sequences in the build-up to the second goal were a good example of that variation, mixing patience with sharp, decisive movement. It is that adaptability that will be tested far more severely in the matches ahead. At the back, there was a calmness that perhaps went unnoticed by some, precisely because the visitors did not create a flood of clear chances. Defenders stepped in at the right moments, cut out passes before danger developed, and generally avoided the kind of sloppy errors that have cost points earlier in the campaign. Clean sheets have a habit of building confidence quietly, and that sense of defensive security can make a huge difference when the pressure ramps up. Out wide, there were flashes of what Celtic can be at their best, even if it was not sustained throughout the 90 minutes. The timing of overlaps improved as the game went on, and the quality of crossing was mixed but occasionally excellent. When the delivery was right, it caused immediate problems, forcing defenders to make decisions they did not want to make. Those moments are encouraging, especially with the understanding that sharper execution could turn solid wins into emphatic ones. Up front, the striker's contribution went beyond the goal itself. His movement was clever. His willingness to battle defenders created space for others, and there was a noticeable confidence in how he demanded service. That kind of personality matters. Strikers who ask for the ball, who show frustration when runs are ignored, often do so because they believe they can make the difference. With goals now coming, that confidence only grows, and it feeds into the team as a whole. There is also an ongoing conversation about depth and options in attack. Different profiles offer different solutions, and that flexibility could become vital depending on injuries, suspensions, or tactical needs, whether it is pace in behind, strength through the middle, or intelligent link-up play. Having alternatives allows Celtic to adjust without losing their identity. That is something supporters are watching closely as speculation swirls. The atmosphere, though, remains a talking point. Even during spells of decent football, there was a flatness that felt unusual for a home match. Some of that may be down to frustration, some to external factors, and some simply to expectation. When winning becomes routine, excitement can fade unless something extraordinary happens. It places even more responsibility on the players to generate intensity themselves, rather than relying on the crowd to carry them through difficult periods. From the touchline, the management appeared focused and pragmatic. There was no sense of panic, no frantic gestures, just steady instructions and an emphasis on structure. That approach reflected the performance itself, not spectacular, not chaotic, but controlled. In the context of a long season, those are often the victories that keep you in contention when others falter. Looking at the wider picture, results elsewhere continue to shape the narrative. Points are being dropped, leads are being cut, and the margins are tightening. Every win, especially one achieved without drama, feels valuable. Celtic know they cannot afford many slip-ups, and that awareness adds weight to each fixture, no matter the opponent. There is also the reality that performances like this can be a platform rather than a peak. The foundations are there, but refinement is needed. Sharper passing in the final third, more conviction from wide areas, and a quicker tempo at key moments could elevate the team significantly. Those improvements do not require wholesale change, just incremental progress and consistency. As attention shifts towards squad movement and the decisions made off the pitch, matches like this one underline why stability matters. Bringing in the right pieces, letting others move on, and maintaining harmony in the dressing room can have as much impact as tactics or formations. The coming days could influence not just the remainder of this season, but the direction beyond it. For now, though, the focus remains on what happens between the lines. Celtic did what they had to do, showed enough quality to secure the points, and avoided unnecessary complications. There were lessons to take, positives to build on, and questions still hanging in the air, all of which will shape the conversations as the next challenge approaches and the intensity of the run-in continues to rise. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and Enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Panic is rippling through Scottish football after a worrying scene at Lennoxtown sent shockwaves far beyond the training ground. Celtic's leading marksman, the man many see as the pulse of the side, was taken away by ambulance following a closed session, and suddenly the talk around the club has shifted from confidence to fear, from ambition to survival. Details are scarce and carefully guarded, which has only fueled speculation. Witnesses speak of a routine drill that turned uneasy, of staff moving quickly, of teammates standing back in stunned silence. The club has offered calm words and reassurances, yet the image of the striker leaving on a stretcher refuses to fade. In Glasgow, that kind of image takes on a life of its own. The timing could hardly be worse. Celtic's European campaign has reached a stage where margins are thin and heroes are often decided by moments. Losing their main source of goals, even temporarily, would force a rethink not just of tactics, but of belief. Around the city, the same question keeps coming back. Can Celtic really stake their European hopes without the player who has carried them this far? There is talk that the injury may not be as bad as first feared, that the ambulance was a precaution, that the panic is premature. Still, football fans in Scotland know how quickly a minor issue can turn into weeks on the sidelines. Managers may downplay it, but privately they will be running through scenarios, wondering who steps up if the worst comes to pass. For the supporters, it feels like fate testing their resolve. One moment of misfortune in training, and suddenly a whole continental dream seems to wobble. Until clarity arrives, the rumour mill will keep spinning, and every silence from the club will be read as a sign. In Scottish football, uncertainty is often louder than any whistle, and right now, the noise around Celtic is deafening. Hello, fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.